Okay, recording is rolling.
All right. So a little basic explanation of things to give you kind of a way of looking at it from my perspective. Apocalypse World is sort of managed by a series of fronts on the GM side. You've got something called the home front, which is basically kind of what you would expect. That's for you guys right now, Fort Kroger. And then, you know, not necessarily other places, although generally other places or threats or things are other sorts of fronts. And that's how I manage things. I list things like that, and it's definitely naturally set up to be a hub centric game with the home front there. Um, so you guys certainly don't have to stay in Fort Kroger forever, but um, it's the sort of thing that makes moving different players in and out very much simpler if we have kind of a rotating cast.
Some things are awkward too. Like if you had the driver and you took the collection, that's kind of hard to move around.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like if you were moving between cities and somebody had the collection, you'd either have to have a bunch of people driving the different cars, or like maybe you'd spend half of a session trying to find one of those old car trailer things that like the double decker things that they use to transport
It'd be
cars to
ridiculous.
dealerships.
Spend one of your cars on a car trailer transport.
Well, you wouldn't have to spend one of your cars. Like
No,
you
no,
could
no, 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 no.
potentially find
You
one.
have car aircraft carrier.
A
You have you
car
have you have
carrier.
you have a double decker car carrier that disgorges cars. Like
No, see, you take it. One of your trucks is a big rig, because then you can have different trailers. One carries your cars, the other one has tank cannons on it.
And one other thing that I've kind of associated with the fronts is, and this is not in a kind of default apocalypse world, but it helps me organize things, and it's potentially something that will help you guys. I am kind of giving things threat levels by color, and it's like a threat level blue is like there's literally no threat aside from like the generalities of living somewhere. There's green, which is relatively safe. Yellow is kind of like the unknown, so you can't know if it's safe or not. Orange is definitely like hazardous area. Red is like almost certain hazard. And I've tried to break things up, and the reason why I'm telling you is I'm not going to tell you what uh, an area is when you go into it. Like, I'm not going to say this area is threat level red. But if you guys do things that actually change the threat level, I might actually consider telling you at that point, like to give you some sort of idea as to how things are going. Um, and, it kind of gives you guys a little bit more firm uh, hints as to, the effects of your actual actions.
from Twisted Metal.
Yeah, that's basically what Juggernaut was.
Yeah, you could get one of those.
Eventually.
So,
Glad we don't have a driver.
yeah, yeah, maybe somebody will come in. It didn't sound like there were too many other people interested, but maybe someday. Or maybe one of you might die a horrible death this session. I don't know. Uh, is there anything you guys wanted to talk about or ask about for clarification before we get started today? I was kind of like on a rule book reading streak, and I'm still trying to master it, but I've got a little bit more under my belt than previously.
How does gang combat work?
Um, it is a good thing I looked that up before you asked. Um, Gang combat is kind of weird. The one thing I know off the top of my head is there are different sizes of gangs. and depending on the size of the gang, the harm they do and the harm they take differs. Like if the attacking.
I ask because Beast of War, the Juggernaut, I count as a small gang in combat as long as I'm in my suit.
Let me look specifically real quick. I actually have this marked down. It's one of the things I figured might come up. Yeah, counting as a gang in combat has always been one of the more like confusing aspects.
See, back to the hard -2 thing. The only thing I don't particularly like about having a hard -2 is if we get into combat with something you cannot really scare, you're kind of stuck shooting it, and you're rolling at a -2.
Yeah. You can always improve your hard, but that's why I am letting you redo it this one time, if you so want. I'm not necessarily recommending it, because this is a game where it's not we go out and we kill things.
But it could end up that way. That's
It
why I
could
was like,
end up that way. And it's not the only way you do harm. If you are basically instigating the situation, then you are basically going to be rolling the first kind of segment of combat as cool.
All right,
if you go aggro,
I'll change it. I'll change it to the one that's only hard -1 and weird 0 instead.
okay,
It's only a minor change.
Make the appropriate changes on your character sheet. This is the only time we're gonna
That's all it is.
gonna do that.
It just went from like cool +3, hard -1, hard. But I changed from the third set to the first set. Basically, it trades one weird for one less hard minus. But
I'm fine keeping mine personally, so
it's still a minus, but it's not as much of
I
a
mean,
minus.
mine are pretty mediocretized, so
Just I was like, can't shoot something. You know, that's what was last time. I was like.
well, part of the thing is because the Battle Babe always has cool 3 by default, so the other stats are pretty low. But anyways,
Anyway, sorry.
What was the specific ability that was giving you the ability to count as a gang? There's several classes that have that. I'm
Beast
just
of
wondering
War.
if you have it already.
for
Do you?
Juggernaut, the one you must start with.
Okay, all right. I definitely need to find this then.
So last time we talked about we were going to maybe deal with. We had a couple problems we could deal with. We had the water supply, which had like a gang infesting it, rocket bikers.
Yeah, Mainline was their former water supply.
That is infected with rocket vipers / psychic thingies, Cthulhuids.
Well, no psychic thingies were ever mentioned.
Well, we brought it up at the end of the session as a possible location for them for having.
There were a
needing
lot
a
of
water
things
source nearby.
inferred, but very few things confirmed.
Yeah, we would have to check it out, but that was the only option we came up with that could have been it.
Cloud, how loud is your mech?
It does not say, so I would imagine it's terribly loud, but
For lack of very straightforward rules on this, until I find something differently, you basically count as a small gang. When you are fighting another small gang, you're basically going to negate the bonuses that they would have had as having more numbers than you.
I just had a picture of like 8 elementals versus a mech. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And if you're fighting somebody who's like a medium-sized gang, they're only going to have like a smaller advantage.
by the same flip, is there an advantage for fighting a single? I mean, I probably would never fight a single guy in my mech, but still.
Technically, I think. Let me find that page again, because there was something about it, but it might have only just been against other gangs. It was like it was worded as when a gang fights another gang. Um, and this was something they were having some difficulty with on the roleplay Apocalypse World 2 understanding.
Yeah, I've only watched the first episode of it, part of the second so far.
One of the frustrating things about Apocalypse World is that things are really kind of vaguely described in the rulebook. Like it's kind of one of the positives and one of the negatives. Like you're given kind of more freedom than you really expect, and you have to kind of be prepared to take it. And I think in trying to do that, the guy who made it didn't elaborate on a few things that he probably should have. I mean, there's tables for
that's true of all role-playing games. That's why there's version numbers.
It's just like there's tables of how much damage vehicles take in shit and in gang sizes. Huh.
I mean, the primary reason for Beast of War is to roll sharp instead of hard while you're in your mech for Seize by Force and Aggro. But it has additionally, you count as a small gang in battle as long as you're in your suit.
We're definitely going to treat it as negating the advantage of other small gangs. I'm going to have to think about if it gives you an advantage over individuals in your suit.
Yeah. Chances are I'd probably never have to use the suit against an individual.
That's true. I'll think of it.
If I have to use the suit against an individual, that's kind of overkill.
Yeah, I mean, you're almost certainly going to just splatter them anyway, but I will try to get back to you more definitely with that.
I mean, RP-wise, if a single guy attacks me with a gun, I don't think run for the mech is going to be my first option. That seems...
Oh, that and the thing is, like, RP-wise, it's going to take somebody really nuts to actually just single-on attack you in a mech, unless they have a rocket launcher or something. Which, I mean, bikers with rocket launchers have, but...
Yeah, but that's a small gang then, not a single person, probably.
Right, so...
so it'll probably never actually come up and be a thing, so...
It probably won't. I will figure it out just in case. I have prepared something to kind of sum up what has been going on and to give you guys a little bit of a jump start in the session. And to start things off, we're actually skipping forward a little bit in time. It has been close to 2 weeks since you guys rolled into Fort Kroger on the back of Racehorse's aging Army surplus truck. During the first couple days, it occurred to you that the community of roughly 30 was perhaps a little bit more welcoming than most remote settlements in this day and age. It kind of probably struck you guys afterwards as, taking something of a risk just letting you guys in, even if you had somebody vouching for you. The longer you've stayed here, the more you've come to realize that they were a little bit more desperate for help than they initially let on. Fort Kroger has ample access to fresh water thanks to a pipe system recently laid down to the nearby Elkhorn River. And despite the radiation clouds, the local farmers have been able to keep enough food on the table to feed everybody fairly comfortably. It looks like, again, as mentioned last time, there might be something of a lean winter, but proper scavenging could possibly offset this if things don't get any worse.
What month is it now, anyways? Or what season? Do the seasons even exist anymore? Be another good question, I guess.
I think I mentioned the first time that the seasons have been kind of skewed by like the nuclear winter and everything. I'm trying to figure out when actual harvest season occurs. It's probably going to be
like autumn in it.
Normally it would be, but now.
I mean,
I think everything probably got moved up a little bit since it's now colder. Um, so like it's actually probably getting into summer, but season wise, uh, it's more like autumn. Like yeah, the seasons and stuff have definitely been skewed, and it's one of the reasons why farmers in a lot of places have been having trouble. It's just, and it's one of the reasons why there's been so many mass casualties, even though the nuclear damage and stuff and all the Cthulhuids were mainly around the coast. It's just like crops and stuff were not able to feed people, and there was a lot of mass starvation. Um,
Sorry,
yeah, we'll
I
say
probably
it's
I probably derailed you a little bit.
a little bit, but it's worth figuring out when exactly we are. We're not going to be tracking the date, but we're like in April or maybe June. I don't know, somewhere around there.
I was more after the are they planting crops? Are we growing crops? Are we harvesting, or is there snow on the ground?
Snow is not on the ground, definitely, and like the harvest is coming up in the coming months. It's something they're preparing for. The real issue at Fort Kroger, though, has surprisingly been its security. It's definitely in a fairly defensible position, more so than a lot of settlements you've seen. If you're looking at the map, you'll see it's kind of at the center of a small town, and they picked what exits they didn't totally board up fairly well.
I think
Blue,
we ended last time with like people approaching the wall or something, didn't we?
no, there was we zoomed out and there was some motion in the fields. Um, Blue, there's like a small blue line on the northwest section that actually represents the main gate. The red line is not actually a gate that is normally in use. It's sort of an emergency gate. The thick white lines that you can kind of see all around the border represent, the makeshift wall that they have put up everywhere.
So they've used buildings where they can as existing walls.
Yeah, like they've definitely made that part of their defenses. They've boarded up lower floor windows. Upper floor windows are definitely more fortified, and weak places in the house, the houses have been reinforced as well. So like any one of those houses doubles both as a house and as sort of a watch point on the wall. Some of the buildings more so than others. That kind of squarish building right next to the gate is like 3 stories tall, and it kind of acts as the main kind of watchtower for that area.
So all the houses except for like 3 or 4 are part of the wall.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's several buildings within the wall, but it's not a
We're
very
gonna call the
expansive.
wall a barricade because it's not really.
Well, it's enough to keep out actual like animals and stuff.
Yeah.
So it is an actual full-on wall, but it's not like a manufactured wall. Like I think I said it before, they raided like the local Home Depot or something, and maybe a couple of them, and the buildings outside of the perimeter have been scavenged for materials as well. But despite all that, security is kind of the issue. It's got the benefit of old Fort Kroger in the back as kind of a fallback point. It also serves as the armory, although they don't actually have too many weapons. But you found some clear flaws in the walls, like places that weren't reinforced properly, and then definitely places in the buildings that weren't really reinforced. Um, and it's been kind of clear that attrition has eaten away at the number of their able-bodied. They've only got about 8 people who kind of take shifts on the watch. They're called the Watch or the Watchers. Um, they're not like full time. It's like when they're not taking a shift, they're either resting or doing something else. They tend to be some of the more young, able-bodied people of the town, which represents something of a problem with the farmers because the farmers need able bodies as well, and they're definitely not very experienced. They're not very well armed and not very well trained, but they are at least resilient, and they have apparently managed thus far. It's a little bit surprising that they've managed to hold out against the Rocket Bikers, but like they said previously, maybe something about how far they are from the Rocket Bikers' previous home territory has had something to do with it. After it became clear that you guys were more of an asset than a danger, thanks in large part to the hang on a second.
Raijin, what they called it? Or are you talking about something else?
Sorry, I had to get the door. Thanks in large part to the good work, or actually the good word of Racehorse and Mrs. Waters. The town has definitely put you to work using your obvious talents. Um, none of the people here really survived on the road, and you kind of have a unique set of skills. A few of the community members are still a little bit wary, but the one thing Fort Kroger needs more than anything else is able bodies, and having a combat mech has not hurt your position.
Okay. I guess we're sitting down to breakfast somewhere.
One last thing before we get started. I have like a little update on what you guys have individually been doing in the last 2 weeks. Mac has kind of become the sort of accepted spokesperson of your group, given his reputation, and it's definitely come in handy ingratiating you with everybody else. The city council, which sort of semi-officially governs the town, tends to go to him with the problems and stuff, any sort of thing that they're actually asking you guys to do. And he's definitely started to become a more respected figure in the community, despite how short you guys have been there. He's currently busy, overseeing the overhaul to the city's defenses and specifically closing gaps and potential weaknesses in the walls, as well as trying to whip the guard volunteers into something a little bit more reliable. Ruby's presence, while welcomed because of her obvious toughness and grit, has not gone without earning the jealousy of a few local spouses. Although everybody respects her, some respect her a little bit more for her more notable assets, and the town's womenfolk in particular have been, at large, a little cool. Ruby, can you please roll 1d4? All right, a 2. And to give you a little bit of a hint as to what's going on, I have prepared some outcomes and stuff for everybody. They're not all bad, not all good. They're just developments to give you a little bit of something to do in terms of your backstory with the town. Things have been going pretty great for you the last couple weeks, Ruby. Despite some friction, you've managed to carve out a little niche for yourself as the town hottie. While women don't necessarily like you all that much, several of the guys like Augustus, who is the kind of the only notable town sharpshooter on the guard, are definitely really into you. So that's something to possibly keep in mind going forward. Ryu, surprisingly, despite being the most obvious outsider, given that you were a foreigner, the town has actually taken quite a liking to you. At first, it was just the few children of the town who have been constantly fascinated with your giant robot suit. But even the adults have grown to appreciate your open, and friendly attitude. And although there is not a lot of partying to be done at Fort Kroger, you've started to earn the reputation as kind of the fun guy of the group. Please roll 1d4. A 1. All right. I generally placed ones as the more complicated results. Ryu, everybody thinks you're a pretty fun guy to hang out with. The last time Farmer Jacobs was in from the fields, he brought a little bit of his own special concoction from the shed he has out back. It's damn good stuff, but man, was it strong. You can't remember much of what happened the other night, but you woke up next to Boxer with her draped across your arm. And despite your hangover, you might have recalled the fact that she mentioned something about having a boyfriend at one time or another.
Oh,
Oh, wonderful.
videos.
Boxer was the motel clerk?
Yeah. Kind of a tomboyish motel clerk, and you would know definitely from spending time with her that she also is one of the town watch.
You said there were like 8 on the watch. How many are actually in the town?
Precisely, not counting you guys, it's like 29-ish. There's a couple of the farmers who actually don't live inside the walls, even though the town has been trying to convince them to. Well, the way the fields are kind of set up is that there's a bunch of small farms around the area, and a lot of them are worked by people inside of the town just daily who work the fields and then come back inside. A couple people, generally the people who lived there before, tend to try to stay on their farms. They're pretty stubborn that way, but they are, in essence, members of the community anyway, and they're not very far away. All right, so that is what I had for you guys prepared. You've heard a little bit more of the background information of the area. Certainly, Mac knows a lot of this already since he's been through this area, but nearby, some of the major powers and stuff or major points of interest. The main highway that you guys are near to is the US 281, and it runs north to south. It's how you got it's not how you got here, but it's kind of the main road. You got here on one of the kind of the small side roads. And it leads down to several of the actual still inhabited areas. You guys know about Mainline. It's off to the east, not on 281. You don't really know much about its current state, other than it was a town, quote unquote. It wasn't. It was really just more of an industrial center. And it was kind of made a town after the apocalypse. One big thing you've definitely heard of off to the southeast is Ashland. It's nominally a town, but it is also Camp Ashland. It is where the Army National Guard kind of based out of before the apocalypse. Since the apocalypse, they have been something of not necessarily a terror to everybody, but they like to claim that they're in charge of the region. And while nobody really confronts them, they sort of engage in raiding activities. And passing through their territory is definitely a risky endeavor unless you have good relations with them or you are willing to give them something. They are in a constant feud with the remnants of actually the Air Force at Offutt Air Force Base, which is to the south. It's near Omaha City. Um, the Air Force has not exactly got the numbers of the Army National Guard, but they've got more resources in a lot of ways, and they've been largely content with staying in their actual on the actual base. They've sort of branched out to the Lincoln um, Air Force or Air National Guard base. That was kind of the primary fuel reserve for the region, and after everything went down, like all of these bases were basically independent, and only recently has Lincoln sort of fallen under the jurisdiction of the actual people at Offutt Air Force Base, and it's created a lot of tension between them and the people at Ashland. And the last major kind of group that you guys know about, and it's very close to Offutt, is actually just Omaha. It's a fairly sizable city, especially considering like the post-apocalypse. It's nominally a protectorate, but it is actually ruled over with an iron fist by the former Omaha PD, and it's got like a lot of people there, but they live in squalor, and it is generally kind of a tyranny. It's still a major thoroughfare for people traveling through the region, but like the whole area down there is really heavily contested between the former Army National Guard and the former Air Force. But fortunately for you guys, that's all fairly far away, and you don't really have to worry about their influence up here.
All right.
So now I will turn things over to you. Where are you guys on this fine day?
Sitting down to eat breakfast.
Oh, did we get different accommodations, or are we still at the motel?
I think they were giving us a building, maybe?
You guys have a house. Let me go ahead and mark that. Now, one thing to note is the motel is actually 3 different buildings, and it's you can pretty much just see it how it is.
Oh, is that what those lines were? I thought they were just a drawn error.
No, no.
Okay.
Like one is the office building, and then 2 are the actual living buildings. You guys were staying in one for several days before you actually had
Are they connected?
one of these.
Like, are there like walkways or?
Well, they're not like covered walkways. It's like
They call it the motel, quote quote, but it's actually
well, it's
just
like
buildings.
it is actually a motel, but it's just like you picture a motel, like a 2-story kind of box motel almost, and it's got a separate administration building, and then it's got 2 other buildings where people actually stay, and they're both 2-story buildings,
Yeah,
and they've got kind of covered walkways around it, but like there's no actual
There's not like a
walkways
like a
connecting
second
them.
floor bridge or something, right?
No, definitely not. This isn't an actual hotel. This is definitely kind of the on the highway kind of motel. There's paths, pavement, but that's about it. There's like a camping area, that sort of thing.
Okay.
That's where you guys stayed for a while, and by now you have been moved. Where's my text button? You guys have been given this house on the southern side of the town. It's one of the more rundown ones.
I can't help
but
but note we've been given the house that is farthest from both gates combined.
Yeah,
Yep. We got the back wall. um,
but
so Ruby's
it.
sitting. Oh, okay.
I was just going to say, you know, it may not be much, but you actually do have a power allotment. Um, that probably
You're
gets
allotted 3
mostly
volts for the day.
it probably gets mostly used by the mech, but there is sort of a write-off for that considering it's
Ruby is a bit jealous of the power usage of the mech. She can't
Well,
run a
yeah.
coffee maker.
on the bright side, as long as we don't have to use it, it doesn't consume power.
This is true. Um,
She has to brew her coffee 2 days ahead of time.
it's not a very nice house, but and that's probably the primary reason why you got it. But it's yours. You guys don't have to share it with anybody.
How many
And so you
bedrooms are
guys
there?
are over
Like
at
one
the
each,
diner.
or is it how big is it?
Um, it's like a floor and a half. Like it's you've got two bedrooms on the bottom floor, a living room, a kitchen, a bathroom, and then there's kind of a study area, kind of a bonus room over the garage, and that's kind of functioning as the third bedroom right now. It's really hot though in the summer.
I can't imagine we have air conditioning anymore.
No, no. I mean, you could fix it up, and I mean, if you guys got solar power or something, you could. Maybe these are all things that have crossed your mind, but no. Lots of open windows.
One can't help but think that the Juggernaut has solar power if it's topped off.
Yeah, maybe
Right.
maybe you power your house off of the Juggernaut on days where you don't expect to actually use the mech.
Well, if the capacitor's topped off, the solar's just wasted otherwise.
That's a good point. And of note, you definitely have enough space to kind of crouch the mech in the garage. I'm
Uh,
assuming you can kind of crouch it.
I'd have to like crab walk it out.
Something like that, unless it has wheels or something. I don't know.
No, it doesn't have wheels.
Is it on a carriage and we have to pull it out?
I don't know. You guys have a garage space. You can use it for what you want to use it for. You guys are at the diner. That first day, you've since come to rue because they were obviously trying to make a good impression and butter you up. That first day, you did actually have a traditional breakfast. It was pancakes. No, it was actually waffles, if I recall. And you had bacon, like actual bacon, and eggs with a side of hash browns. Since then, it's just basically just the waffles and the eggs. It's still not bad, but perhaps the bacon was a little bit of an evil
Specialty.
thing to do to you guys.
It's like, damn, we can't have bacon every day. We need to get some more pigs somewhere. Anyway,
Can't have bacon every day, Ruby.
so I'm sitting at the table drinking my coffee, and I'm like, Sarayu, couldn't help but notice you were absent the other night.
When was this? Also,
This
this strong
was
stuff.
2
Are we
nights
talking
ago.
drugs or are we talking some type of form of alcohol?
This was definitely like moonshine.
Okay, I kind of was imagining alcohol because
And
Oh,
she
yeah.
gives Ryu a little bit of an eye. Boxer looked real happy the next morning. You know she's got a boyfriend, right?
yeah. To tell you the truth, I don't remember much of that night. It was a bit awkward in the morning.
Might be more awkward when her boyfriend comes after you.
Yeah,
You know that Kyle is also one of the members of the town watch / the people who work on the fields.
wow.
And
This is the first guy I've heard that has a normal sounding name.
there's a couple of them.
I was expecting they all to have like strange names, but they're like, oh look, there's Kyle. And I was like, okay.
Oh, right.
Augustus might fight you if you say that to his face.
What? But normal sounding names?
Yeah. Yeah, he's probably very self-conscious about
Augustus
being named
Caesar.
Augustus in like the modern. This is like a name he was given by his parents.
So,
Wow.
Ryu, I think we
Trust me,
might want
I work
to.
in mail processing. I've seen some bad
Yeah,
name
there's some
combinations.
weird names. We might want to look at getting you out of town for a few days, maybe.
I don't know where I'd go.
Well, maybe is there any maybe is there well, is there like nearby areas we could salvage or go scavenging maybe?
A lot of the close, not
Well,
necessarily, little settlements or little towns have been fairly heavily
scavenged.
scavenged, but there's still definitely a few residential areas and farms and stuff. Um, and it's not a terrible like drive to get out of their their normal salvage zone. So you could definitely go find some place.
Maybe I could talk to Racehorse and see if he'll let us use his truck or come with us maybe.
Well, getting out of town while Kyle cools off would probably be a good idea. I haven't seen him yet today, but I don't know if he knows about that night, but it might be ugly.
Right about now, um, you see the kind of the bouncing light brown tomboyish hair of a boxer as she walks by the diner, and both of you kind of see her glance at the window and cut Ryu a smile and a wave,
Okay, make that
and
very ugly.
Hmm.
it looks like she's heading out towards the front
Ruby
gate.
gives Ryu that look. Oh, this could be problematic.
Don't get me wrong, Boxer is a beautiful girl, but do I know? I assume I know what Kyle looks like. Is he like a big guy, little guy? Who are we talking
No,
about?
he's
He's got
kind
the
of average.
biggest muscles in the city.
That
So
would be Augustus. Uh, he's actually pretty average. A little bit on the smaller side of average actually, but he's got dark hair, kind of dark stubble. Um, he's not a jackass or anything, but he's kind of your typical high school slash college age kid who has a lot of hormones and um, he's a little bit easily swayed by feminine wiles or people he looks up to.
right. Uh, I still think it's probably a good idea to let things cool down a bit in town.
All right, so I'll go talk to Racehorse later and see if we can borrow his truck,
Let
or
me
maybe he'll
mark,
take us out.
let me mark Racehorse's town or house on the map. You have discovered Racehorse's house.
Doop-a-doop, with
Look,
the
we're
experience
walking.
points gained.
We were walking around. You gained exploration experience for
It'd be like
Kroger.
Divinity. You walk around, exploration XP, 1,000 points. Okay. You are now 25% of the way to exploring all of Fort Kroger. No, sorry.
It's fine. I was having a coughing fit.
Oh look, he's next door.
I think that was also partially one of the reasons why you guys moved in there. Like he definitely personally vouched for you guys, and
Is half of his house a big garage? He's got like this little like small shack with a bunk bed on the right side, and the other half is just the rest of the garage for the
well,
six-wheel truck.
actually, it's like his garage spills out a little bit onto his what is his driveway, and it's just all car parts and stuff. There's like an
I
overhang that
imagine
he's
like
set
he's
up.
got like the traditional garage, and then the door is up, and then he has like tent the rest of the way.
Yeah.
like an ex-military tent.
Are the yellow things next to the what look like parking lots? Are they like the barricade things? Because
Yeah, those little yellow concrete things.
okay, because I was looking at them like they were parking spaces, and I couldn't figure out how they were actually
No,
laid
no.
out.
There's a yellow painted concrete bumper thing.
Like the
Yeah,
ones in front of the courthouse look like that could possibly be parking spaces, but then I look at like the ones next to like the center, and I'm like, okay, there's no way you could fit cars.
It's that you could drive your car over this, but it might be troublesome.
yeah, yeah, those.
All right, so I saunter over next door to Racehorse.
All
I
right, so
imagine he's working on his vehicle or something. Maybe. What's he doing?
actually, you peek around inside the garage, and there's nobody in there.
His truck gone, or his truck there?
The truck is not there. It is actually kind of parked across the street right now. Like he sometimes leaves it there, when he's
Okay.
not working on it, or when he's only in town for a day or so.
So I walk through the garage and I peek into his abode. Racehorse, you there?
So as you say that,
Wait.
a woman with long brown hair kind of comes around and sees you. Gives you like as she actually recognizes who it is, she gives you like just the most subtlest of scowls. Like she's not being impolite, but you can tell she's not precisely happy to see you.
I'm not the only
And
one who's
she-
having turf troubles.
She comes to the door.
Is this like his
Oh.
wife that I know of?
Yeah, she's simply called Racehorse's wife most of the time.
Wow.
Oh, I was gonna assign her name, but okay.
Well, if you want to, like, she does have a name, but she's almost universally just called Racehorse's wife.
Elise, have you seen Racehorse? I was about to ask if he would take us out scavenging, maybe.
So it looks like she was definitely kind of prepared to open the door and just say, the typical, "Oh, it's you. What do you want?" But when you talk to her by her first name, she actually kind of it looks like it has an effect on her. Like the rest of the town sort of writes her off as Racehorse's wife, and that's not the most comely of names. So she's a little bit more amenable to talking. She says, "Oh, hello, Ruby. He's actually up at the courthouse talking with the Waters right now. He'll be done soon, I think. I think he's about to head out on a run sometime today or tomorrow."
Do you know what the run is about? We were looking at maybe. He glances back toward Ryu, getting out of town for a little, or toward the house where Ryu said, getting out of town for a few days, if you know what I mean, wink.
She kind of narrows her eyes as she looks over.
How wide is the commons? Is that like glancing distance, or because I'm at the diner still, probably.
You could see Ryu from the diner to Racehorse's house. You couldn't make out his face. Like you could wave to him or something, but that's about it.
All right, so basically, I start gossiping with her about Ryu's apparent fling with Boxer.
Okay, all right.
It's official. I'm doomed.
So she comes out and leans up against the wall. She's got kind of work overalls on. That she works in the diner, but she also works out like actually preparing the stuff that they get in from the farms. And that's she doesn't work like she doesn't have like a steady job like some people like who are this functionary of the town. She kind of does things as needed. She leans up against the wall of the garage and she listens, and she's a little bit surprised that you're actually talking to her and engaging her in gossip. She definitely gets into it though. She's like, "Did they really? Right in the
Apparently,
motel."
she looked a little bit happy the next day. So
She
yeah.
she looks over your shoulder and kind of raises an eyebrow. She looks at Ryu's silhouette. Ryu, are you an attractive sort?
Uh, I'm very average looking. I have a hot of 0, so probably not.
Well, that measures how kind of seductive you are. It's not your pure hotness, even though it is your hot score. Um, you're athletic though. Like you have to be
Yeah,
being
he's
former
athletic, got
military.
a military frame. I
I
don't
think
think
You
I
sweat a
think she.
lot inside
he
that
probably
neck.
wouldn't be called conventionally handsome.
All right. Well, she raises an eyebrow, um, and she seems to actually be enjoying the conversation.
So
And
yeah, we were looking to maybe going on a run for a few days. You know what I mean?
she narrows her eyes a little bit at that. Actually, like looking you up and down again. How tall are you?
Uh, 5'7" or something like that, probably.
Okay, she's standing like the same height. Um, like when you mentioned going on a run with her husband, like the attitude swiftly changed. She's not openly hostile, but like you could feel the air kind of change a little bit. She says, "Oh, were you? Um, well, but he doesn't talk to me about such things normally. He could be gone for weeks at a time, and I don't see him." She gets kind of in a huff.
Well, I'll assure you that I have no intentions on him, so to speak. Augustus seems to be a bit interested, though.
She guffaws a little bit, like she was not expecting you to just come out and say that. Um, she says, "Well, she's definitely perplexed and flustered, and you could tell she's trying to like she's trying to figure out what she wants to project. She crosses her arms. She says, "Well, you better not. He's my husband." She's actually only in her late 20s. Resources in his early 30s. So she's roughly the same age as you, I would assume. Um, more or less. But she's a little bit standoffish, but she was definitely like you've surprised her a bunch in this conversation, and perhaps like you're coming across differently is how she expected you to. Well, he'll be done. He'll be done soon. I can't imagine what they're talking about for so long. He's already been over there in nigh 45 minutes.
Well, I mean, I suppose I could go check, but unless you know of another vehicle, the truck would probably come in handy if we were trying to salvage anything useful. You know of anything you're looking for while we're out?
She kind of brightens at that.
Coffee maker, maybe?
Let me see. Is there a
Heck, I
random
know I could use
generator
a new
for
coffee
objects?
Ryu's mech, she glances at like seems to use all the power. Need to find a smaller one.
A brief pause. I have a random generator for a lot of things. I briefly clicked on random generator barter to see if it would generate something that she might want. I don't think she wants a semi-tame bear.
What?
Wow, damn, that's pretty crazy.
Uh, it's giving me good ideas though.
Can we eliminate living animals from the list?
Actually, yeah, there's quite a few actually living animals on this, but she thinks for a moment. She clicks the RNG 9 times before getting to something acceptable, and she says, "Well, this is something that not everybody thinks about." And she kind of gets a little bit on a soapbox here, like, the women in the town don't think a whole lot of her because she didn't go to
Well, I mean, she goes
school or
by
anything.
Racehorse's wife most of the time.
Yeah.
No wonder.
And she's kind of one of the outsiders, even though she's been here as long as most of them. And she gets sad with all the odd jobs. But she gets on her soapbox and she says, you know, light bulbs don't last forever. Nobody thinks about how we actually get light. You know, they think, oh, we have power from the river. Everything's fine now. But, you know, what happens when one of those bulbs burn out? If you can find,
Yeah,
you know,
they're
any
not
sort of
exactly
light,
making them anymore.
yeah, if you can find any sort of light bulbs at all, that'd be real helpful. Not just for us, but you know, I know a lot of places around town are starting to get a little bit dim. The
They're
only,
getting kind of scarce out there. But I'll see what I can find.
if you could,
Oh,
that'd be a help.
I just found the Juggernaut's special for sex. I found the official one.
Oh, good. Like text it or message me or something.
Here, you could just go to it. I found a link that has the full ones.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So as you're talking, you see your eyes kind of shift a little bit, and she definitely recognizes somebody coming up, and you turn around and you see it's Racehorse making his way across the promenade, the circle in the center of town.
He sees us chit chatting.
Yeah, he sees you chit chatting, and if you could see his face, he'd be like, "Oh boy." But you can't see his face just yet. But it's clear that he's on the way.
Well, looks like your husband's returning.
Yeah, she nods, and before you know it, he's there. Uh, Elise, everything okay? He looks a little bit wary, and then he glances at you, and he says, "Hello, Ruby."
Racehorse, I hear you're going on a run in a day or so.
Let me prepare my Racehorse voice. I just remembered that he
Dot,
was
dot,
somewhat
dot.
somewhat gruff. Yes. Well, I was planning on heading out tomorrow, but he gives his wife kind of an apologetic look, and like she sighs heavily, like she knows what's coming. She's like, but Mrs.
They
Mrs.
sending you out
Waters,
today?
yeah, there's been some equipment breakdowns down over by the pump station by the river, and gotta find some replacements.
What would you think about taking me and Ryu along with you?
His eyes brighten a little bit, and like he gives you like the most slight of up and downs. But then he looks over towards his wife,
standing right there.
who's definitely kind of furrowing her brow. And he's like, "Oh, you and Ryu," and he looks around like for Ryu. Yeah, sure. I'd love to have you guys along. It's like, you saved my ass last time, and he kind of laughs, scratches the back of his head. He's definitely kind of feeling awkward at the moment. Well, I'm gonna head out in I guess about an hour or so if you guys can be ready by then.
Oh, I'm sure we can.
He pauses and he looks back at you. It's like is he gonna take that mech of his again?
Probably. He takes that thing darn near everywhere. I know it sucks enough all my power from my coffee maker. I gotta drink the damn coffee cold.
He doesn't outright sigh, but like you could see a little bit of a slump in his shoulder, and he casts an eye back over towards his truck. He's like, "Oh, all right, it's better safe than sorry."
I think he's been working on it the last few days. It shouldn't do that again, or so he says, with rolled eyes.
When you say that, he's like, "Well, I've been working on the truck too, and I'll be damned if that rear cab gets bent again." And and he's like, well, why don't you meet me, over by the truck in an hour or so, and we'll get off.
All right, that worked out fine. So then I bid him farewell, and a little toodaloo to Racehorse's wife, and I go back to Ryu. Ryu!
Ah, Ruby, you're back. How'd it go?
Leans back up against the wall. Seems Racehorse is having a bit of a salvaging mission, and he's leaving in about an hour.
That sounds great. As I look over my shoulder for someone.
She gives you the look that says, "You have been working on your mecha, right?" I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah, it should be fine. We haven't done anything the last couple of days. The capacitor should be all charged up.
Because I assured him that it wouldn't break down like it did last time.
No, it shouldn't be a problem. Do we want to establish the operational capacity of that capacitor now?
No.
Is that going to be?
We're not going to go. We're not going to go like that.
It was a fluke. It didn't work one time.
I didn't take breaks down or anything. So
No. Only slow, with fast.
All right. Well, she gives Ray the news, and then Ruby goes and starts getting her stuff ready, like
I have to figure out what
cleaning her
slow and
shotgun
fast
and
mean.
stuff like that.
yeah, I have thought about taking something else, just because there's so many times.
It's fine. All right, so Ruby goes to cleaning her shotgun, like this just she whips out this giant hunk of metal.
Because she remembers what happened last time they went out. Them Cthulhuoids. So she's getting her gun ready this time.
So it makes this huge thunk on the table, like the china or whatever, the plates rattle a little bit, and you see the woman who normally kind of tends the diner look across like wow, that's an impressive piece of hardware.
That's a big gun.
It's like the gun takes up like half the table, even though it's a sawed off. So
Wow, that was a big gun to get with then.
I took big.
Yeah,
I took high powered actually.
It's got +2 harm to the normal.
So
I had to treat it as a sawed off elephant gun.
You,
what else?
You have Hellboy's shotgun. Oh, he had a pistol.
Yeah, it's a big ass gun. That would make it 5 harm, yeah. Because I like big better than AP ammo. I'm sorry. It's like, yes, it's big.
You have a sawed-off the size of an HMG.
Right, so you guys are, I guess, deciding to wait there for the hour.
It's Cloud's roleplay turn. TM.
Okay, well, I get the mech ready. I power her up. The condensers were up. And then,
So you're out at the mech.
yeah, because we're leaving in an hour, right?
Yeah. Almost like preternaturally, as soon as you press the power button on the mech, children just appear. And you have definitely come to see this as like a regular occurrence. It's not the whole passel of children this time. It's Jeff and his friend Jessie. She's a little bit younger than him.
They just love hearing the main capacitor boot up commencing.
Yeah, it seems like anytime you turn on, like some sort of electric field goes out, and they are just summoned from wherever they are. At least 1 or 2 kids are summoned from wherever they are, whatever they're doing, and they come and watch. It's not that much of a problem. In parentheses here, one of the things you could have rolled earlier was those damn kids just never leave you alone.
Wow.
And it could have been a problem then, but it's not a problem. You're
to
used
be honest,
to them.
if there was a working mech in my backyard, I probably wouldn't leave it alone either. So
Yeah. Fortunately for you, you didn't roll a 2, and nobody's gotten hurt climbing on it.
that would have been bad.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, that was number 4. Anyway. And you've got to know Jeff, and his friend Jessie's a little bit quieter. She's kind of got wispy red hair, and he's got his long brown bowl cut. Um, and they just talk to you as you're doing things. Um,
Ah, Jeff, Jesse, good to see you again.
hey, Mr. Ryu. They refuse to try to pronounce your last name.
Aw,
Like they tried and they just call you Mr. Ryu now.
I'm going out on a salvaging run with Ruby and Racehorse here in about an hour. Got to get the old Raijin ready.
Their eyes widen. They're like, oh, you're gonna walk it around?
Yep, I'm gonna drive her out this time. She's had quite a bit of time since last time. The capacitor's all charged up. Should be fine.
Can we come? Can we come?
Oh, I'm sorry. Uh, I'm assuming they have parents. Do they have parents, or are they like orphans?
Jeff does not have parents. He's kind of taken care of by everybody. Jessie does have parents. She's actually the granddaughter of Mrs. Rue, who you have met but have not met in scene yet.
Now, I know you'd love to come, but I would never hear the end of it from Miss Waters and the others.
Yeah, Mrs. Waters definitely kind of takes charge of Jeff more than the rest of the town. They definitely look a little bit hangdog. Jeff especially looks really disappointed. He's been bugging you about trying to get inside and test it out for himself, but he kind of accepts
Oh
it.
God,
He
one of these sessions he's gonna have tried it. Ugh, that's gonna be ugly. I'll find it like sprawled out on the floor or something the next day.
unless one of these days you train him and he just hops into it in your moment of need. Um, but yeah, he's got like a broom, like a really really worn out, like multiple times replaced bristles broom, kind of over his shoulder, and it's obvious that the children have been at their busy work again as of late. I think there's only 4 or 5 kids in town. I think maybe 4. Um, and when one of the adults is not trying to teach them something akin to school, they're basically just doing kind of really small odd jobs around town. It gives them a lot of time to mill about the mech. But you get it started, and they definitely stick around the entire time. And the hour soon arrives, and it's time for you to go meet Racehorse by the truck. And so when you start the mech up and start walking it there, the kids just kind of run alongside, and they're like eyes wide, just like laughing and stuff.
All right.
All right, so Racehorse sees you coming up. He's got the truck started. You can see he's got some containers, like empty containers, in the back of the truck, like maybe to hold smaller parts. He's also got a couple coolers of what you presume to be water, and then a few presumably empty fuel tanks. It looks like maybe he's hoping to scavenge some fuel while you guys are out there. That's one thing you guys know that is carefully rationed, since he's basically the only person that really goes anywhere. It's not that big of a deal, but the town does not have a major fuel supply. The gas station was on the edge of town, and it was pretty much dried up by people on the road like the first week of the event.
Note to self: at least I didn't choose diesel for Raijin.
Yeah. Says, hey there, Ryu. That he looks over at the kids, and he gives them a wave, and they run up to him. They really like Racehorse. He kind of ruffles their heads. Now,
Kids
I've
are
reinforced.
big fans of heavy hardware in this town.
Yeah, he's also very good with kids. You've come to notice. He's one of the few kind of male adults that's actually not an asshole towards the kids. I've reinforced the back there. if you look, you can see like it looks like actually part of a car frame, like cut from another car. Like the very most sturdy part of the chassis just cut off and then welded in place beneath the back to kind of reinforce the cat or the reinforce the rear gate. And
That doesn't bend like it did last time.
yeah, hopefully that's obviously what he's hoping. He looks a little it's obvious that he thought it was enough, and then he takes another look at the mech, and he's like,
That
it should be
shouldn't
fine.
It shouldn't be a problem this time, Racehorse. Last time the capacitor was just about dead, but she's had a few days now, so he should be
Well,
nice
to
and
see
topped
it,
off.
maybe we could look for some heavy-duty springs or something for you while we're out.
He brightens a little bit at that. Any sort of upgrade to his truck is definitely welcome.
God, when we're calling heavy-duty springs an upgrade.
Yeah, well,
Well, maybe you need to
You guys-
triple the number for your mech to sit there.
his truck is actually, a military surplus truck, but it's like a military surplus truck from the 1960s. It was actually his dad's truck. He's never been in the military, and his dad wasn't either. It's just something his dad
Racehorse
picked up.
upgrade, reinforced suspension.
And so, like, this is his kind of his pride and joy. Like, not so much that he's a truck guy; it's just that it's the family truck, and it's been kicking ass since the commies were around.
Yeah, who doesn't want like a six-wheeled army surplus truck?
Yeah,
It does have six wheels, right? Or is it just a big
Yep.
dually?
it most definitely does. So, he pops the gate down. He backs the kids up. He says, "All right, well, you do your thing." He kind of cringes a little, and we'll get out. Where's Ruby? He's kind of looking around.
Ruby finishes assembling her gun and walks out with it across her shoulder like it isn't picked.
I kind of plan to just walk it out this time, unless it's like a super long distance we're going.
He's been working on it, he says.
Um,
As she walks out
Yeah.
the front door.
he says, "How fast can that thing go? We're probably going a good 20 miles."
You told me it was, I get like, what, 30 miles an hour?
Yeah.
Oh, she'll get up to 30 on a good clip.
All right. Well, he looks really dubious at that. Like, he still doesn't think that thing can move that fast, but he's at least appreciative of the hardware itself and the engineering. Says, "If you think you can keep up, I'll keep her down to to something respectable, and we'll take our time there. It might take a little bit longer, but maybe it'll give you a chance to stretch your legs." he laughs.
It'll be good to get some laps in.
All right, so he climbs up into the truck. Like it's one of these trucks where you really have to climb up to that fucking cab, and he hangs out the side. He's like, "Ruby, get your ass over here."
Alright.
You see him appreciating that ass
Appreciating
a little bit.
that ass.
Yeah, and then like Ryu, you probably see this, like he's looking at Ruby, and then like as Ruby passes around the side of the truck, it forces his gaze to intersect with his house, and Elise is standing on the front porch, and as soon as the gaze passes there, it stops, and he's like, he raises his head, he waves. And she just kind of stares at him, like with her arms crossed. Yeah, he looks very, very unsure of himself. He climbs in the car. He's like, "All right, let's go."
That climb in shotgun.
Yeah, you see on the seat between you, he's got his Mac 10, that old piece of shit. The only time you ever saw it actually work was when he was firing at those zombies on the side of the road, and you weren't sure if he actually hit anything or not, but at least it makes noise.
They mind if I take a look at it?
He's he shrugs. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm not much the gun sort."
I pick it up and look it over, and I'm like, Jesus, when's the last time you cleaned this thing?
He kind of scratches his head. He's like, I'm more of an auto maintenance man myself. He gives a
It's
look
no
to your
wonder it wasn't any good against those
giant
Cthulhians
ass
last time.
shotgun. He looks actually a
I'm
little
gonna
bit
open
embarrassed.
the CB channel to the truck, and it's like, oh, you can't have that racehorse. You got to keep your equipment maintained. You never know when you might need it.
He's definitely pretty red faced. Not only that you have like such a more massive gun than him, but also he's a mechanic who's been caught with shoddy maintenance to something he owns.
My gun's bigger than both of yours, so
You say this over the radio, and he just like he slams the CB, and he's like, "We're moving out," and the truck kind of grinds in the gear, and then it lurches a little bit, and it starts moving off around the circle.
do I have to worry about breaking the concrete that's on the circle, the asphalt?
No, definitely not. If it was some other surface, you might, but you
I don't
don't.
want to walk in sand, I would assume.
You didn't pick heavy. It's fine. You guys move around the circle. You're going counterclockwise, and you pass the courthouse. You guys know that the courthouse is 3 stories. It's a very, very big building, even though it's fairly simple on the outside. It's also got a basement. It's kind of the heart and soul of the town. Not only does the city council kind of manage from there, but several of the councilors just simply live there. And as you're passing, several of them are up on the on what amounts to the porch. Like it's just more of the steps that lead up to the front. And they're walking out. Mrs. Waters gives you guys a wave. Her husband, Mr. Waters, he's a very, very tall man, like 6'6". He's very wiry. He's on the council, but he's only kind of peripherally involved in the managing of the town. He's kind of more of the the go-to guy for just a lot of things. He gives you guys a nod. He's pretty Spartan with the attitude. You guys roll up to the front gate. The gate is set up in such a way that it's at the T intersection. So the theory is that nobody can really build up a huge amount of velocity without having to turn, and it's just to try to keep people from actually just battering the door down with the vehicle. It's a pretty solid door. You see Boxer up on top of one of the posts next to the gate. She gives like an approving glance towards the mech. Is it clambers up?
I want to salute her as I pass.
Can she actually see you, or is it just closed up?
How does your cockpit look, Glenn?
She can see me.
I didn't catch that.
She can see me.
Happened again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I said she can see me.
Okay. All right. So you give her a salute. She giggles. She hefts her rifle onto the shoulder, and she waves back. One of the other person on the other post is another young woman by the name of Laura, and she like kind of laughs at Boxer. And there's one guy standing down at the foot of the wall near the gate. He's a really big guy.
Augustus.
This is Augustus. He's only 6'1", so he's not super tall, but he is built like a tank. But funnily enough, he does not use. He's really known for his sharpshooting ability. He's got a long rifle kind of leaned over his shoulder. He's generally been in charge of the town watch. He's in his late 20s. He gives the mech kind of a nod. He seems to have accepted Ryu's presence. He's a little bit wary of the mech itself. He definitely gives Ruby a more than once casual glance over as he looks in through the cab.
I give him a wink as we drive by.
He definitely is approving. He gives you like a slight nod. He's the confident sort. Um, and then he waves to Racehorse, who everybody knows, and says, "Race, how long are you going to be out this time?" And Racehorse, he's rolling down the window. He leans out, his elbow out and everything, and he's got to kind of yell to be heard over the engine. He says, well, it shouldn't be too long. We're only going up to probably about Old Church. Should be more than 5 or 6 hours."
Oh, well,
He nods.
If it's only going to be that, I may have to amend my notes.
What was in your notes?
I posted it on the Roll20.
Blah blah blah.
If we're not going to be out for a few days, then I had to be amended somehow.
Oh, okay, I see it. Yeah, you definitely know. Well, nothing was ever said of you guys being gone for a few days. Like when you guys were talking about going someplace close, um, he's generally like that. That's a day kind of scavenging trip. The times when he's gone for a few weeks, like he's driving very long distances.
Oh, well, we were talking about getting some out for a few days for things to cool down a bit.
Well, you guys might have said something to yourselves about that, but you never actually broached the subject with him about being gone for a few days. So, do one of you? Do you come over to CB, or does Ruby kind of lean over and say something to Racehorse about that?
The race. How long are we going to be out this time?
Well, he looks a little bit flustered. Like he looks over and he says, "Well, this is just going to be kind of a day trip."
I think that'll work just fine.
That worked fine for you, Ruby, but I've had a few discretions the last couple days.
What do you mean discretions?
Well, Boxer, she got some
He got
rather
into
strong,
a bit of trouble.
bit of strong alcohol in the other night. To tell you the honest truth, I don't remember much of it, but judging by the way I woke up in the morning, it might be better if if they have a little bit of time to cool off a bit, because I understand she has a boyfriend, maybe.
Right about now, over the CB, you hear Boxer's voice. She says, "Oh, you don't need to give me any time to calm or cool down." And you see her like with a radio up on top of the tower, and
Oh, it's not you I'm worried about cooling down, Boxer.
Racehorse looks over at Ruby and he says, "Does he know that this CB frequency is for the whole town?"
Don't think so.
Are you kidding me?
Uh-oh.
He's like, "This is the town watch frequency."
Uh-oh.
Don't suppose Kyle's on the town watch, is he?
Yes.
Well, I'm dead.
So before you cut off the CB, you hear like this frantic cursing.
You're fucking dead.
You hear this cursing, and like Augustus, who's down by the gate, he's got his radio and he's holding it a few feet away from his face, like because it's just yelling at him, and he's like, you see him try to bring it closer so he can talk to somebody, and like he's not having a good time with it. He motions for Boxer to open the gate while he's trying to deal with whoever is yelling on the other side of the radio, and Racehorse just looks at Ruby and says, we better get going.
Mm-hmm. Gives him that nod.
So you guys start trundling out of town,
Dude, she
and
wasn't. You see why I wanted to get out of town for a few
and
days?
Boxer makes some cat calls at your back as it passes Ryu, and you guys turn and head down the street
And this
and
is the
out
point where, like,
towards the highway.
when Recluse comes back, you're like, "The fuck did you guys do while I was gone?"
We weren't even here when it happened, but we're in all kinds of trouble. At least I am. Not that I have any complaints. I happen to like tomboys.
Everybody had at least one role that could have been very complicated with the citizens of the town. All right, so you guys are heading out onto the open road.
Yep. Down a stretch of highway. And it's much more. Does it look like this, or does it look more cracked than this?
It's definitely
it's not
it's definitely
been
a
that
little.
long.
Well, yeah, it's only
so-
been 7 years. So
Yeah, it
It's-
might actually look something like this.
It's definitely very similar to this. The one thing is that all the grass and the fields and stuff on the sides are much higher than this. There is basically, nothing to keep the wildlife in check. So, you can imagine this scene in a lot of
Highways
places.
in the middle of nowhere have suspiciously short grass most of the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, in a lot of places, the grass is going to be like this, but near to the farming countries and stuff, it's not grass necessarily, but there is a lot of tall weeds. And there's a lot of sunflower and corn farms, and there's just occasionally you'll pass stretches of road where it's just miles and miles of several feet of plant growth on either side of the road.
Yeah, so, yeah.
This
This is when we mentioned that, to Dre source, are you sure you don't have, like, like a farther away stash we could get stuff at? Maybe one you haven't been to often? You are having a little backup this time.
He he gives like a glance to the rear view where the are you running beside the truck or behind it?
I'm beside it.
Okay, he glances out. He kind of laughs to Ruby. He opens up the radio.
told you that thing could move.
He says, I guess I understand a little bit now why you wanted to get away. Kyle's not going to be too happy when you get back. But yeah, I guess we could go a little bit farther.
Yeah, I
if
imagine
you
he
wanted.
won't be. I really wish I could remember that night, because, Boxer, she's a beautiful woman.
He gives you a nod. When you say beautiful woman, his eyes kind of cut over towards the redhead sitting next to him in the big big
to each his
interior
own.
cabin. Let me see here. He says, well, the one place I've been staying away from is O'Neill, and well, it was a kind of a sizable town before the shit hit the fan, but it's actually fairly close by, only another hour or so. It's definitely not the most. He pauses. He's trying to think about how to word this. It's obvious that he doesn't really want to like scare you guys off because like he doesn't normally have a lot of help on his runs. He comes back over to CB. It's definitely not the most welcoming of places. Last time I went through there was nobody there, and there's packs of dogs wandering the streets, and the bikers have been up through there a few times, but it's pretty quiet. There's not a whole lot to its name now, but there's quite a bit of stuff to be had in there if we've got the gumption to go.
Ain't nothing standing between me and loot, and if there is, I got old Bessie here.
Yeah, who knows, Rib? Maybe you'll find that coffee maker after all.
Her eyes light up. It's like, yeah, Ryu, maybe if you got some more efficient capacitors, I'd have some power to run my damn coffee maker.
Hey, now, it provides plenty of power when I'm not running it.
So he definitely enjoys all the byplay. He's it's really clear that he's not used to having any company on these runs. At some point in the trip, he starts playing like old '70s era power metal. Um, there's some it moves on into the '80s and stuff. There's some AC/DC and whatnot coming over the speakers when you
The
guys aren't
cloud gets
talking.
this tinny version.
Yeah,
The CD
probably.
radio.
Do you have an MP3 system inside your experimental power armor?
It probably doesn't have one, but by now I figure I would probably pipe one in.
That's probably something on everybody's scavenge list after the apocalypse. So
A
I could
working
imagine.
MP3 player.
Yeah. And maybe
And USB sticks and hard
maybe
drives
that's
of
actually
music.
maybe that's
That's
actually
the
a
thing,
form
though.
of barter.
Like, if you had an MP3 player, getting the songs onto one would be really hard in the apocalypse.
Yeah, well, maybe that's actually a form of barter, like what songs you have stored on your MP3 player. Food for thought in the future. Eventually, you guys roll up to O'Neill, and it's not a pretty sight. Um, it's obvious that this town was ravaged by fire at some point. A lot of the buildings had been burned down. It looked like it had a fairly sizable population, at least compared to Fort Kroger, which is absolutely tiny, like not even appearing on a map. But this is kind of your standard small to almost mid-sized town, and there's quite a lot of options here. The town itself is sort of a maze of destroyed buildings and broken down vehicles, so much so that it's very difficult to get the truck through in certain places. And everywhere you go, you see these broken, burned out windows, and occasionally you'll see like a dog, like a really skinny dog trotting across the street.
I can see what you mean there, racehorse. I
Yeah,
don't think even the rats live here.
He's long turned off the radio, and you guys are just kind of rolling into this place in silence. And I guess he pulls up to a stop at the outskirts of town, and he rolls the window down and says, "Now, normally I do this by myself, but with a squad of us here," he kind of laughs a little bit. He's like, "We think we need to decide on how we want to do this. Haven't been out on a run with you folk, and
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how you operate."
I'm going to crouch down next to it so I can actually hear the conversation.
Ryu's mech there should be able to get us access through any kind of barricaded door we would find. I got old Bessie to deal with, which would probably scare off anybody
A couple
if
minutes
I
here,
fire it.
I can
but
send the drone.
if not,
up.
I could always deal with them. But I'd rather not come to that if we had to. What was that about, drone? Right, that's right. You do have that flying thingamajig.
Yeah, I could send it up. It should give us some eyes in the sky, if nothing else. Should come in handy around here if all these walls and buildings block the line of view.
Says, "Oh yeah, right. I forgot about that thing. Oh yeah, that could come in real handy here." Well, the things to be
Which
careful
areas?
about.
Oh, sorry.
The things to be careful about here are really not what's alive, but just the aftermath. There is quite a lot of broken metal and places that have collapsed that you can't necessarily see. It's a very, very hazardous area in some places. Not so much on the road. There's just a lot of things blocking access, but scavenging in here is a fairly hazardous thing.
What happened here, Road Horse? Racehorse?
Well-
Road Horse.
He laughs a little bit. He's like, it could be either one. I don't rightly know. Um, I think I heard something about a riot when things really started going bad, and it doesn't really explain a whole lot. I mean, a lot of places went south, but all I know is one night we could see the glow from all the way over at Kroger, and the next day, or really for the next couple of days, there was just smoke and fires. Um,
I asked you earlier, but I didn't get a response. Do the highlighted stats change at the beginning of sessions, or?
oh yes, we haven't had to do that yet, but we can right now. Thank you for reminding me. Since there's only one other player here, for each of you. Basically, one of you guys is just gonna uh, choose a stat for the other person. Do not choose hard for the battle babe, and I will choose another one.
Okay. I doubt hot's gonna get much use out here, so I'm gonna go with sharp.
All right, and Ruby, I am going to highlight your weird.
Okay.
All right, how about for the Juggernaut? What do you want to highlight, Ruby?
He wants to see you tear up a building or something. So I'm gonna highlight hard.
Nice. I'm going to highlight your sharp, Ryu.
Yeah. Normally, I'd assume it's the player that has the most history picks, but since there's only two of us.
Yeah, yeah. In a situation where there's just two of you, it's going to be fairly straightforward. At the end of the session, um, it's kind of the same thing. Normally, you pick somebody who's got the most interaction with you that session. It's just going to be each of you get +1. Okay, let me find where I was. So Racehorse is talking about O'Neill and how there was some sort of riot. The the Rocket Bikers might have had something to do with part of the destruction of the town. He doesn't really know. He never really heard too much about it. But yeah, one night it just kind of burned, and nobody from O'Neill made it to Fort Kroger. So either they all died or they went somewhere else. And there haven't been a whole lot of scavengers up here just because, one, nobody's really been wanting to be reminded of someplace this utterly dead, and two, it's a little bit hazardous on its own, even without the chance of running into some sort of bandit or rival scavenger. Well, it's going to be a bitch to get the truck in there. I guess I can pull up the rear if you wanna go ahead.
Okay.
You want to take the back there, Ruby? You could probably
Yeah,
get a
it
pretty
should
good
be
view.
about right. So I climb out and I climb in the back of the truck.
Okay. I'm
All
gonna
right.
go ahead and send the drone up. Is there like an operational capacity on that, or
What do you mean?
like
How
how long
long it
can
can
it
last?
stay in the
No.
air?
Uh, it could stay in the air quite a while. We'll say quote quite a while right now. So what specifically are you doing?
Looking for a building that that doesn't look obviously savaged from the outside, maybe. Like if the front door is completely destroyed, which probably most of them are. But
All right. Well, the recon
would I
check could
roll
definitely
sharp
help
for
you.
that, or
Let's
how does that
see.
work?
All right, that was Ryu's roll for the recon drone, and you can make a roll on your own.
Yeah, so I get
You would be.
one question to ask.
Yeah,
Do I
hold
ask
on. Let
that
me.
now, or can I like hold that for another time?
You have to ask that now. Um, while you were determining that, let me see here. I think you would be. It depends on how you want to do it, Ruby. You could like just be trying to perceive everything, or in places like this where it's like it's really
Actually, you
quiet.
know what? You know what? I'm just gonna open my brain and feel for like a strong sense of loot somewhere.
Cool. All right. Yeah, that was what I was actually going to say. In places that it's really quiet in this part in parts of the world, it's a little bit easier for you to hear kind of the whispers that.
So what she does is she just as the truck is kind of like she kind of like leans with her back up against the cab, spreads her arms out and faces the sky. You can picture that. But
Ruby, what are you doing?
she doesn't answer you.
All right. So Ruby's up on top of the truck. Obviously, Racehorse can't see what she's doing. He might cut a glance back to her midriff
In my ass
through
through the window.
through the window, but he's not paying attention to anything else.
Not very. It's only a 4 though.
Okay, all right. Well, let's deal with Ryu's roll first. You rolled a 7. What are you searching for with the drone, Ryu? What are you asking?
I'm going to go. I don't know anything particular to look for, so it's probably. Yeah, it's gonna have to be what is something new it's spotted because the other ones don't
Well,
really apply.
you could do that, or where is a particular person, vehicle, or place? You could say a particular place is something that looks relatively intact, or how you define interesting. You don't have to be totally strict with these things. You can reward them slightly.
Okay.
I mean, you could certainly say what's something new it spotted, but
I'm gonna look for a place that I might be able to get to with the mech, but a truck wouldn't have been able to get to.
Well, you
okay.
could like move.
So,
You can move like cars and shit out of the way.
so like some place that other scavengers would not have been able to easily get to, that you could.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, in the center of this large mass of buildings that have just collapsed. It's like a whole square block. It looks like these are 3 or 4 story buildings. A lot of brick that had burned down and collapsed, and there's bricks that have just tons and tons of them, like literal tons, have just fallen everywhere, blocked off a couple of the roads, have crushed a couple smaller buildings just underneath their weight. It's obvious that it would be extremely difficult for anybody not in a mech to get up there, and because of the vantage point of actually looking at it from up top, you can see that in the center of this block, that basically all these buildings had kind of an alleyway in between them. All the buildings had collapsed, but relatively in the center, there is a somewhat protected area that you cannot see from anywhere else. And, it looks like there's at least part of a building there that you cannot see how anybody would have really seen to get to it unless they were just crawling through the bricks for no apparent reason, and it would have been really difficult for them to get to.
All right. Racehorse, Ruby. The drones toward the center of town. Looks like there's a building that looks like it would have been difficult to get to, but I think I can get to it in the mech. I could possibly clear a path for you guys too if you wanted to come. Chances are it's not been looted too heavily.
Well, I could possibly ride on your shoulder.
Well, Ruby, you are currently opening your mind.
I'm opening my mind. So
Ruby doesn't actually respond at first. And if you look back, you see her eyes are rolled kind of up into her head, but you probably can't really see that given that you're in the mech and you're kind of
You just see me
far
stretched out
away.
across top the cab.
Maybe she's reenacting that scene from Titanic. You don't know. You haven't been with Ruby that long to know if she's a fan of the movie or not. Um, so Ruby, you open your brain and and for a few moments nothing happens, and then you hear a wind. It kind of blows through the buildings, and then it dies down. It blows again, um, and then it kind of sounds a little bit almost like there's a whisper somewhere, and you try to concentrate on it. You're like, where did that come from? And you're listening to it, and you're kind of turning into the wind. And as you're doing so, you get the smell of smoke, um, and and even though you're looking with your eyes at this place kind of around you, you suddenly have like the picture in your head of just uh,
The whole place in flames, or
blackness, and there is heat, and there is fire, and there's a lot of smoke, and somebody shrieking, like they're being burned alive, um, and and like this voice or this whisper that you had heard on the wind is like actually shrieking at you. It's like getting closer. It's almost in your ear, and it is absolutely like terrifying. And then there's more voices, and all of a sudden you come back to in the real world, and you fall back down into the truck bed. And it's quiet again.
uh,
Ruby, are you alright?
that was something. I tried that opening your mind thing, and the burning and screaming.
What's
This was
burning?
You can see Racehorse is like poking his head through the little glass opening in the back of the cab, and he's like looking at you with wide eyes, like what's going on?
I saw this place while it was burning.
You didn't see too much. You basically got
I
the
got impressions
the
of it.
notions of things on fire and dark smoke.
She shakes her head. I didn't see much, but the fire and smoke, it must have been terrible.
He looks really weirded out. He says, "Damn it, Ruby, you're scaring me. They've been saying stuff about people having nightmares and visions when they're awake. I didn't believe it at first, but I've had a few myself. I don't know what the hell's wrong with this place. I've even had a few back home."
I know what you're talking about, Race. I saw it in Tokyo with the Cthulhuoids. It wasn't pretty.
He doesn't cross himself, but you could tell he almost wants to. Like he's freaked out about this. He's like, ugh. Well, did you see anything in that on that RC drone of yours?
Yeah, there's a building toward the center of town. Looks like some other buildings have collapsed around it. There's lots of rubble. It probably hasn't been looted too heavily. It looks hard to get to. I can probably break the path down if you want, though. As a side note, I got a level up with that. Can I take walk through walls now?
Yes, you may.
I didn't know I could do this before, Crush.
Yep. Yes, you certainly may. All right, so mark off one of your new Juggernaut moves. That's a very, very decent one to choose.
So I have to get a new Juggernaut move on the right, too, right?
Yeah. Basically, when you do that, it means you can only get one more new Juggernaut move. But that's a very solid choice.
Everybody wants the ones that do something cool. That's what
Yep.
happens. Why? Well, sure, I could get sharp +2 to +3, but why when I could walk through walls?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's very cool. All right, so you guys are on the edge of this town, and how far away is this area that you found exactly? Is it closer to you guys, or is it nearer to the heart of the town?
How big is O'Neill?
Um, it's definitely maybe 8 or 9 blocks in terms of the downtown proper. It's not a huge town by any means, and there's like smaller buildings that kind of form not necessarily a suburbs, but kind of the outskirts past that. But the center of town is like 6 or 7 blocks of fairly sizable buildings, all kind of packed in together. It's quite dense for what it is.
Looks to be out maybe a mile down the road.
Hmm. Gonna be hard getting the truck through there, but you say you can clear a path.
And the mech just walks through cars and crushes them flat.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess so. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, if there's anything like I'll try and clear a path for the truck. I don't know if I roll something for that or because essentially it's
Let's
walk
see
through
here. Walk
walls.
through walls. We will say that the fortifications, quote unquote, are just all of the shit on the street. Um, Basically, just a lot of cars and the occasional bit of rubble from a building. And you're just gonna have to make one roll. This is just gonna write a 7.
So it'll happen, but I have to choose one. It can't collapse. It's not too strong, so it's going to take some time.
So which one are you choosing?
It's gonna have to be. It's going to take some time. The other ones don't make any sense.
Okay. All right. So the mech drives forward at Ryu's command, and heaves this car out of the way. It's like a little Pinto, so it just flips over, and Ryu's like really proud of himself, and he
Yeah, I
pushes like
noticed there's only about 100 more cars like that one.
yeah, he pushes a Mazda out of the way. Like somebody didn't even put it in park, so he could just roll it. It crashes into like a Dairy Queen.
And the alarm goes off.
Yeah, the car alarm actually goes off.
I give Ryo a look.
I crush it.
It Yeah,
It
all right,
says
yeah.
you fucking
It goes.
idiot.
It doesn't go off all the way, but it's definitely really muted, like it's coming from underwater almost. It's pretty much a non-issue. But yeah, you do recognize that you've got maybe 40 cars ahead of you of various sizes. There's even a fire truck that's been turned over. Um, do you turn around and tell and inform Racehorse?
Ruby leans through the window and says, "This might take a while."
Yeah, well, it looks like it. It looks like he's making some progress, though.
Damn, I didn't know that thing could do that. I ain't seen him use that move. Move stuff like that? Probably pick up a car and throw it.
So, you guys, I guess he puts he turns the truck off, and he lets Ryu get up 20 or 30 feet ahead. He doesn't want to waste gas, and it doesn't really pay to just be idling behind him by a few feet. He's also not really sure where all these cars are going to be going when you start jerking them around and stuff. So he wants to stay a little bit back. So he gives you 20 or 30 feet of leeway before he starts his car up and then moves it again. And you guys kind of continue this. Will you please roll me 1d6, Ryu?
Righto. 2.
All right. So it's been about 10 minutes. It looks like you're halfway there. You're making some good time. You're actually having quite a bit of fun smashing this shit. Like you didn't really know that you could push the mech to this extreme and just brutalize cars like this, but you certainly are. And you're about halfway to where you think think a ripe scavenging area would be. You've noticed a few dogs kind of on the outskirts of visual range. Um, Ruby, are you still on the back of the truck, just
Yeah,
kind of looking
I'm
around?
just kind of looking around, hiding in the back. Sometimes I'll make a comment to Racehorse through the back glass, but other than that,
All
I'm
right.
just keeping an eye out,
Yeah. Well,
keeping looking for possible scavenging areas around us too as we go. But
you notice that as farther Ryu gets ahead, the more of these dogs you're seeing, and a lot of them look like they're like
Racehorse, you
really,
ever noticed
really,
it?
really shrimpy kind of domestic pets that have obviously become somewhat feral. But there's a few bigger ones in there too, like maybe a coyote or something. They're darting in and out of the wreckage and stuff out between cars, and like as Ryu's getting farther away, and you're kind of left in the quiet of the street, like you're definitely seeing more of them.
Racehorse, you ever noticed a large populace of good dogs in this city? I thought you said this place was abandoned.
Oh, they've got scavengers, of
If it's abandoned, why would there
of the
be so many
canine
dogs?
variety. Says, well, he's basically been focusing on the mech. Like he's pretty impressed by the carnage that this thing's been wreaking. But he looks around and he you can see him kind of furrow his brow as he sees something moving in through an alley. It's like, huh, they don't normally get this close. He looks around and he sees, he obviously sees another one. He's like, there's normally not this many of them. I mean, like when I was talking about them, I only met like one or two, and they just generally hunt the rats
Generally,
and
how many
and
dogs am
stuff.
I looking at?
You have seen at least 7 or 8, and at least one or two of them are fairly big. So as you guys are talking about that, you hear a growling from behind you, Ruby. And so what do you do?
Um, I shoot a gun into the air to try and scare it off.
Okay, so without even turning around, you take the gun out and you just plug one right into the air.
Yep.
That definitely sounds like you are going aggro. Um, will you please roll with your cool?
8.
All right. Yeah. So this shotgun that Ruby's got just explodes violently into the air, and aside from Ryu's mech making all this ruckus up front, it's pretty quiet out here, and it is a shockingly loud noise compared to everything else. You hear a yelp behind you, and you turn and you see not one but 3 dogs scattering off and running into alleyways and behind cars and whatnot. And you can tell that they are definitely moving away into the buildings. And Racehorse is like, Jesus Christ, what was that?
Scared the
And
dogs off, but
he
be ready.
he
If
starts
anything
the
else was
engine.
out there, dot dot dot.
He starts the engine. He puts it into gear and he starts moving it up. He's like, they've never been a problem like this before. And you see that you scared quite a few of them away, but they're still kind of on the edge of your vision.
I just keep an eye on the ones I can see.
All right, so Ryu, you're up front pushing a jeep out of the way. It was actually burned out, just like a husk, and not making it very easy to move. Like the tires are all gone, and basically been having to push it on its rims. Um, You're nearing the a something of a clearing. You're thinking you're only a few minutes away from your destination, where you hear this loud gunshot. What do you do?
I open the radio. It's like, you guys okay back there?
Scared some
We got.
dogs off.
There's a lot of the fuckers. I don't think they can get you in there though.
Well, keep an eye out on them. If it comes down to it, I can probably help you out.
Yeah, Ruby, you might want to get in the cabin here.
All right, so she crawls in through the back window.
He definitely enjoys this. You start to get in, and he's got like a face full of cleavage for a good 30, 40 seconds as you're trying to squeeze through this thing, and
All
you're
according
probably
to plan at that time.
probably not paying too much attention to him, but he's just totally dazed by.
Eyes on the road, boy.
And as you're doing that, you feel something grab your ankle. Teeth sink down around your boot, and you take 1 harm. Are you wearing armor?
I have my fashion armor vest thing of 1.
Yep. Well, that works. It is reduced to 0 harm, but since you have taken harm, you have to roll the harm move. This is basically kind of secondary effects to taking damage, even if you don't actually take permanent physical damage.
Mm-hmm. So how does that work?
I am trying to find what you need to roll right now. The harm move. I thought I had it right here.
When you suffer harm, roll plus harm suffered. After armor, if you're wearing any, on a 10 MC, choose 1. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I thought that was in the basic moves.
It's under peripheral moves, farther down.
Oh, yeah, I found it. Yeah. So yeah, roll.
Roll
you
2d6, I guess.
Just roll 2d6.
9.
Okay. Yeah. On a 7 to 9, I choose 1. All right. So I am normally I'm not gonna normally this is not the sort of thing that you do in this situation, but because this is 2 of these options work really well, I'm gonna give you a choice. You've got your big ass gun and you're holding it.
It's got 1 round left, though.
Yeah, it's got 1 round. The thing is, this whatever has you by the ankle, it's grabbing you really painfully, and it is really, really strong.
Something's got my foot.
Yeah, and you can either be dragged out of the vehicle or lose hold of your shotgun.
Ruby don't let go of her shotgun for nothing, so she gets dragged out.
Okay, all right. So Ruby is dragged, kicking and possibly screaming out of this car window. Her breasts are magnificently on display for racehorse.
Probably got caught on the window for a brief moment.
Who is suddenly freaking out in 2 different ways as he's reaching for the MAC-10. Ruby, as you get pulled out and you land heavily into the truck bed, you see that there is actually a fully grown wolf standing right above you on the truck bed. It's slavering. It looks almost.
And she's
rabid.
gonna go die, you son of a bitch, and shoot it in the face with the other shot.
All right. So that is definitely seized by force.
Yes, that's -1.
All right, so roll your seized by force.
10.
Nice roll. All right, on a 10, you get to choose three. You can take definite hold of it. You can suffer little harm, which translates to -1 harm, by the way. You can inflict terrible harm, which
I'm
translates to +1 harm.
most definitely inflicting terrible harm.
And you can impress, dismay, or frighten your enemy. So which three do you choose?
uh, where's that at book? So I can just look at them.
Basic moves. I don't have the PDF you guys are using open. Let me find it.
I don't have that open yet either. I really should.
All right, on 10 plus choose 3. All right, I'm gonna take definite hold of it, inflict terrible harm, and impress, dismay, and frighten my enemy. So basically, I'm gonna put my shotgun to its head, pull the trigger, and just obliterate it.
Okay. And for Cloud, that is on page 33 of the basic reference book that I gave
That
you
would
guys.
be harm 7.
Yeah, I haven't downloaded
Yeah.
it yet. I'm trying to navigate back to the forums to actually get it.
It's actually in the file share.
Oh, is it?
Yep. All right, so you did everything but suffer little harm.
Yep.
File transfer complete.
Okay, so it savages at your leg, dealing you. Let's see here. Need to just look one thing up. I'm fairly confident I know what this is going to be, but I wanted to make sure it is in keeping. Yeah, dealing you 2 harm.
Is that reduced to 1?
That is reduced to 1 by your armor. So mark down the first section of harm on your sheet, and
I have to roll the 2d6 plus 1?
Yeah,
or...
we'll roll that in a second. You deal.
Do I put an X? Do I put an X in there, or do I put like 1? How does that work?
Put an X. Right, and so your shotgun is base damage 5 and then another 2?
Yep.
Oh, man. Holy fuck. Alright, so
the shotguns are 3.
So we have
big, high-powered makes it plus 2.
So do we have a giblets, Wolf?
So, and you inflicted terrible harm. So actually, no, it's doing 6.
It would be,
right.
So it would be 6 harm. I think it's messy is the other one that it has.
Yeah, it's high power. You have it listed as high powered and big. I'm not sure if you wrote down all of the things that went with shotgun. This is certainly going to be messy. I would put those on there for the future, just for reference, maybe in a note or something. But
oddly enough, it actually doesn't have loud for shotgun.
We're treating it as having loud.
But my pistol does.
But the pistol does.
Unless it has a silencer on it, or it's something that doesn't make sense, is not having loud.
Close, reload, messy is the other part of it.
Okay. All right. You put your shotgun up to this thing's like chest, basically. You dig it in like right where the sternum is, like right where you know that you can shove it and it's not going to go anywhere, like it's not going to glance off this thing's body, and you pull the trigger, and there is this splatter and this deafening roar, and like a very, very, very clipped shriek as this thing is just turned into giblets, and your slug goes in through the chest and it comes out the upper back, and it just blows this thing like clean in half, and there's just viscera and bits of ribs and fur and blood just all over you, but mostly the back of the truck and like in the air. It's like hanging in a cloud, and this thing is just super dead. All right, so now, before anything else happens and before anybody else makes any action, let us have you roll your harm. And that will be, I believe, 2d6 plus 1. And make sure you guys are keeping track of your experience when you roll one of your highlighted stats, by the way. I know that wasn't one of them, but certainly worth reminding.
And we get experience when we roll it, right? Not if
Yep.
we succeed or not.
Yep. Success is not a factor. Do you want me to roll for you?
I just rolled.
I didn't see it.
Got a 4.
Oh, why is it no longer making the noise? That's
Probably
very
because
odd.
it's the same person rolling over and over again.
Well,
Probably
all
as like anti-spam protection.
I have to see if I can fix that. Right, 4.
I probably would have chose suffer a little harm if I had known that. I didn't know that shooting would cause damage. I thought that was like kickback or something. But
No, basically, anytime you are engaged in combat, the enemy has a chance of dealing damage to you, if I deem it. And if you choose to suffer little harm, it's always a good thing if you are in a situation where there is any possibility of the enemy, further hurting you. So let's see here. On a miss, the MC can choose something from the 7 and 9 list. If I do, it is instead of the harm you are suffering. So you would take -1 harm. No, you just take 1 harm.
okay, how does
So
that work?
You're at 1 harm. It will eventually heal with time. Not a whole lot of time.
Like my leg is lacerated or something?
Yeah, like you've got bite marks on your thigh, like through your jeans. Your leg's bloodied up. It hurts like a bitch.
So after eviscerating, she like grips like a shit.
He says, "Are you okay?"
He
You
bit
see,
my fucking leg, but I dealt him a motherfucking hit.
He says,
Ain't
"Hold
nothing
on."
left of him.
So
I grab hold of the nearest handle I see.
Yeah, he kicks the thing into gear, and it comes flying up towards you, Ryu, and it kind of skids to a stop. What are you doing while this is happening?
With my other hand, I'm reloading the gun.
Okay, I have.
As soon as he stops, then I no longer have to hold the handle. I reload.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna stop doing what I'm doing. I think I will probably read the situation once I get the book open, so I can see that.
Yeah, that is a very good option. Reading a charged situation, you roll plus sharp. You can only do this once per situation per character, but it is a very smart thing to do because there's usually no negative to doing it.
I'm gonna name it Elephant Shotgun.
9. So
9.
I picked 1.
Nice. Yes, you can choose where is my best escape route, way in or way past. Which enemy is most vulnerable to me? Which enemy is the biggest threat? What should I be on the lookout for? What's my enemy's true position? And who is in control here? So you get to choose one.
I will go with my enemy's true position, which I assume is a bunch of wolves.
Yeah, they are. There is you can't tell how many, but they have encircled you, and for the most part, I think this is probably where we are going to have to draw a slight map. Give me 1 second.
Got some not so happy trees and some pretty sick looking dogs.
See, this is when the mech goes acquiring targets.
New objective: defend truck.
They pop up on the heads-up display.
Does your mech have
all
like
these,
high-tech computer voice
That's right.
controller?
Totally pops up on the HUD, highlights all the wolves in red on a blue outline.
That's pretty awesome. You hear boop, 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 and like little tags start popping up over all of them, like assessing threat levels.
And you just see the one that was on Ruby was like threat level 6, and it just goes to 0 and flickers in the wind. The computer just goes calculating threat level 6, 0.
Calculating threat level. Threat eliminated.
Get a super close camera zoom in of Ruby's breast jiggling as she shoots from the recoil.
Yes, nice.
The computer temporarily begins to calculate threat on the breasts.
Mental threat level high.
Be calculating as distraction factor.
Oh, that didn't come in very well.
Wow, that truck. I'm going to assume that was supposed to be a long truck, and they made it 1 hex sized.
That was built for Roll20. Jesus.
Can you make it stretch multiple hexes, or is it just one? Diagonal is probably going to be an issue. I don't know how Roll20 does it.
That's more truck-like.
Okay, it can do diagonals. Okay.
All right, it's not going to be precise.
It'll work.
We've got it going.
Just imagine it has like the bed extended up another axle. And it would be pretty close.
This
I
is
have
a
Gauss
standard for your
rifles.
mech. Yeah.
I'm a miniature Marauder 2C.
Okay. So this is generally where you are. You're kind of just past this crossroads. Up ahead of where you are facing is kind of your direction, the direction of your objective that you have assigned yourself. And you have basically determined that most of the enemies are now in those two areas.
Okay.
There are buildings around here and stuff. I'm just not. I'm not going into them.
My machine gun has 3 harm, close, far, area, and messy. So I want to riddle one of those sides with bullets.
All right, so Ruby, you're in the back of the truck, and
I see Raijin point his thing this way, and I hit the deck.
yeah, and I think maybe
that's actually a move.
I think maybe Racehorse doesn't really understand what's coming, but he
Get
sees
down,
the mech
Racehorse!
turn. And you rolled a 9 on that?
That was on Rita Sitch.
okay.
I haven't actually rolled anything on
All right,
offense
let's
yet.
see here.
I closed Roll20 back.
It's sharp because I'm in the mech, right?
I'm sitting there looking around where the fuck did it go, but...
Let me see here. Is that...
When you're in
That's one
suit,
of your
roll sharp
abilities,
instead of
right?
hard for seized by force or go or aggro.
That's very awesome. That's very cool. All right. So, yeah. We will,
I assume it's probably seized by force.
Well, it depends on what your objective is. You are not necessarily in all-out combat with them. You could do what Ruby did earlier and try to scare them away. Or you could just riddle and go for maximum carnage. Which one are you trying to do?
I'm trying to obliterate one of the sides.
Okay,
of the
that's
levels.
definitely seized by force. So yes, roll your sharp.
likes 9 today.
Nice. All right. Yeah, choose two from the Seas by Force.
Well, let's go. I'm going to take definite hold of it, and let's impress, dismay, or frighten the enemy.
Okay. All right. Both very good choices for this situation.
That,
So,
that that's my do something under fire. With get down, take cover.
I
oh,
don't
you don't
know.
actually have to. You don't have to
No.
actually do some. That's only if you're actually trying to do something under pressure.
Okay.
It's too bad you weren't try.
I don't
Are
have
you
cool as
are
a
you
thing anyway, so
are
it's not
you
a big
are
deal.
you basically just trying to minimize yourself and make sure you are not a target of anything?
I don't want to get hit by the bullets he's about to spray.
Yeah, but I mean, are you're hunkering down in the truck?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're definitely down there, and we're gonna say you probably are not gonna be able to be seen by the wolves and the coyotes and the rabid dogs either as a beneficial consequence.
The dogs
Also,
just saw their leader, Alpha Guy, just get blow away in the wind, and they're like, "Not going in there. Nope, nope."
hilariously enough, on a 12 plus, you transcend the danger, the pressure, or the possibility of harm. You do what you set out to do, and the MC will offer you a better outcome, true beauty, or a moment of grace. Which is hilarious because you are being ultra graceful while diving down into the bottom of this truck bed,
With
where
racehorse.
nobody can see you.
Rachel's in the front. But
So, well, okay. I guess. Do you want Racehorse to notice how awesome your ass looks as you hurl yourself down into the?
yeah,
Into
totally.
Okay,
Totally
yeah.
through the rear view
He is
thingy.
ultra hard at this point. Paradoxically so, given the combat. But he's seeing you in the rear view, and he's like, oh man. Uh, it's like even with all the blood on her jeans, damn, that girl's got an ass. All right, so you line up your guns, Ryu, as Ruby just disappears into the truck bed. And you said it was 3 harm?
3 harm, close far, area messy.
Awesome.
Oh god.
All right, so we just hear this actually, yeah, we hear this roar. It's just, and it's
The
just this
computer's just going
incredibly
threat eliminated.
it's this incredibly prolonged burst. Like he should not have this much ammo to spare, but he does. And he rips into this entire building facade, and like you can't see anything, like any enemies at all. And maybe Ruby, like you poke up an eye, and maybe Racehorse, like he's like when he's not looking at your ass, he's kind of looking over there. But Ryu definitely is like really focused in on the zone. And you see these large chunks just dig out of these buildings because of your bullets, and occasionally you'll just see pink mist behind the buildings that you are firing at, and you just walk this gun all the way across this thing, and you don't know how many you killed, but you got the feeling that you killed quite a few of them. And there's parts of buildings are collapsing back there, and like there's a bunch of plaster clouds and dust and blood everywhere. You can maybe see like some of the walls of the buildings beyond, and they're just totally splattered with blood. What would you guys like to do next? You can't see any obvious signs of the wildlife nearby now, and as the gun kind of cycles down, it's very quiet except for the idling of the truck and the mech, and the occasional crumpling of some bricks over in Blood Gulch, where Ryu just annihilated a whole pack of wolves.
Holy shit, Ryu.
you see Racehorse like poke his head up from like where he's basically tried to hunker down beneath the seat, and he's like, "Holy shit!"
Well,
He's
guys, I
he's
don't think we'll have many problems with the wolves for the time being.
his jaw is slack, and he's like amazed, and he looks back over his shoulder, and he's like, "Did you see?" And he turns around and he sees Ruby like kind of picking herself up, her cleavage is kind of dangling a little bit. He's like, he just stops mid sentence, and his jaw is slack for an entirely different reason, but he's totally dazed.
You guys all right back there?
Yeah, I'm. One of them bit me, but I'm just fine. And she like rips off a little piece of her shirt, so it's just a little bit shorter, and wraps her leg.
Well, Jesus, man, I didn't. You can tell he is just flustered by the amount of firepower you just put out. Like he knew it was dangerous, and he knew you nominally had a machine gun on there, but not one that could like devastate an entire building facade. You can tell he's definitely glad you're on his side, or more aptly, he's on your side. It's like, I don't think they're coming back after that. Jesus. Ruby, you need help back there?
She like ties off her leg. I'll be fine. Just a scratch.
He mutters something about tough women, and he's like, "All right, well, you want to move on there, Ryu?
Yep.
I think everything in this damn town probably heard that, but I don't
just
think
had a
they're going to be
picture of
coming
like
here."
his mech, just like having red target lines and going boop, target eliminated, eliminated, eliminated as he just mows them down.
No targets found.
All targets eliminated.
All green. Continue operation.
So are you basically just gonna push the last few cars out of the way?
Yep. Just keep on going.
All right, yeah, you do it. You nudge the last few cars out of the way, and you come to. It looks like maybe it's the ruins of the fire station. Like ironically enough, or at least the building that you are facing on this side of the block. It is a giant ass brick building that has collapsed. It's collapsed, but it's sort of forming an incline that you saw on the drone cam, and that's kind of how a lot of the buildings went. The interior and kind of the backs are all sort of raised up a little bit, and the further away you got, the less elevation of the bricks. So the area that you're looking for is definitely obscured from view, but it's behind there. And yeah, you get to this apparently ruined fire station. There's several buildings behind it on the same block that are also in ruins of various states. And Racehorse pulls the truck up, and he parks it, and he cuts the engine, kicks the door open, and he comes out with his MAC-10. He's like, Jesus. You can see he's still shaking his head from all the gunfire, and like he turns around, he sees like bits of wolf stuck to Ruby, and he's like just totally turned on.
She just brushes a bit of it off.
He
looks at him like,
I
what?
take harm to my friends very seriously.
Well, how you want to get started with this? That looks pretty hard to climb. He's looking up. He's like, "You sure there's something back there?" And he's now having to kind of yell up to you because he's not using the radio anymore.
I can probably get you guys up to the second floor if you want.
Or you could kick in the front door and we clear it floor by floor.
Whichever you prefer.
Well, there's not so much floors anymore. At least not on the buildings that.
Oh, it's like it's all rotted out.
Let me do another drawing.
Do 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 do.
We can take a brief break after I get done with this drawing if you guys like. I know I need to get something else to drink
Yeah, that's fine. We
after
can do that.
this. Well, let me finish. I'll do this drawing. I'll explain it to you, and then we can take a break.
Darn, I'm gonna have to find a picture for Boxer now.
Frustrating thing about Roll20 is you cannot click off the screen, so I have to do my lines like ending right at the edge.
Huh.
And that's why I did the town map in Sketchpad.
So Boxer, are we talking something along like those lines? Or more like those lines?
Let me take a look.
On a side note,
Definitely more towards the second. She's got kind of ear length hair. It's light brown, but yeah, that's definitely kind of the general. The second picture is definitely more her type. She's not like super hot.
Well, it's hard to find character concept that isn't. So
Yeah, but the main thing is like nobody except for a few like the Battle Babe or a few of like the more notable characters or classes really have access to things like even only 7 years after shit went to you know or shit hit the fan, and she doesn't wear makeup really. Her hair is washed, but it's not like styled, and so like a lot of it is more like traditional beauty from before like popular media and whatnot. So you can tell she'd probably be very attractive from before if given access to makeup and whatnot, and she's still not bad to look at or anything.
there's a truck for you. It's not top down, but
did you put it in chat?
Where?
TeamSpeak?
in TeamSpeak.
Ah,
Keep in mind, he only has one monitor. It's probably best to keep them all in one place.
yeah, I got a shit ton of tabs.
I bet you do.
Yeah, that's
Starlancer,
very
it'd be like
very much what you guys
invest
are
in
using.
second monitor.
Yeah,
$150. Best 150 you ever spend.
it's coming soon. I've made the decision.
As long
Um,
as you have a desk that's big enough for one.
Because I have like on my right screen I have Firefox with Roll20. On the left I have like the basic rule book.
We both have
and
like massive
no-
corner desks, so we're no shortage
Yeah.
on space.
I have a big corner desk, so I have on my left monitor I have like the rule book and another internet pane with my character sheets. And my notes document thingy. You wouldn't believe, Star. I never took notes when I was in school, but goddamn, I gotta take notes with this.
okay, so this is a very basic map of what things are like. It's definitely, if you can see. Oh wait, that's not the ping button. All right, where I'm pinging, like either end of this alley, these are both basically collapsed in on themselves, these buildings, and the front half of this building is definitely collapsed in on itself too. But when you were looking, it looks like maybe um, there was a section back here in this building behind the firehouse that like it looks like maybe the second story, and maybe even part of the third story, like it had shielded it, looked remarkably intact and definitely not visible from the road. So we will pause here for like a 5 minute break,
Righto.
and when we come back, we will see how you guys attempt to scout and scavenge this place.
Okay, I'll stop the recording here then, and I'll break it into two parts.